Happy Monday. Happy full moon in Capricorn. Although I'm sure some of you would not describe today or this moment as happy. Before I get fully into this episode, I just want to say my mind, my thoughts, my prayers are with those who are affected by the fires that are happening in California, those who don't have water in Virginia, still don't have water in Michigan. Plastic is in the water in Mississippi, and all the in between, I'm sure, of the various natural disasters that are happening currently. And I also want to shout out to those of you who are feeling like you're in a particularly dark moment right now. Many of you, as I was preparing for today and just thinking about what this full moon represents, oh, it's not a full moon in Capricorn, excuse me, it's a full moon in Cancer. So a lot of you, as I was thinking about this, are feeling like you've just been left out by yourself. Like you've been trying everything, and you just feel like you have nothing left. You feel like people have forgotten about you, or that people just have moved on with their lives and they left you behind. And no matter how much you try to fight and claw your way out of it, it just doesn't seem to be working. And what I want to say across the board is, what if this is working? What if this is what it feels like for something to work? Particularly, or especially, I should say, like in this American context, which is where I live, where I'm coming from, and most of the people I interact with, there's this sense of, if I do good, then I will receive good. If I'm a good person, then good things will happen to and for me. And that's not true. Unfortunately, that's not true. Because I do talk a lot about, we have control over our lives and that we can control outcomes. But I mainly am intending that to come from the place of, there is a lot that we can control in our day-to-day lives, and that as much as possible, be intentional about those things that we can control. But that does not mean there isn't still this other area of things that we have no control over. We don't have control over natural disasters. We don't have control over, I don't know, cars breaking down or people transitioning or the myriad of things that cause grief and that some of us may view as negative. Sometimes, and a lot of times I would say, things have to break down for us to go to our next season of life. I'm feeling like a real elder right now. In the past 3 to 4 years especially, I will say that the lesson that has been reinforced for me over and over is that sometimes we have to lose it all in order to move on, because we wouldn't move on otherwise. And while the losing it all is not pleasant, it doesn't mean that it's not going to have a pleasant outcome. I'm going to talk more about that, but really, essentially, it's too long to don't read of it. But I did want to say that I know that some of you are feeling that way. I've been talking to clients who've been feeling that way. And I've been saying to them, this is the moment. Like, this is where it starts. This is where the work starts. This is where you have been doing all this prep work for, is for this moment. And I call these moments the pit of misery. Sometimes the pit of misery is you trying to learn a new skill, like you're trying to go live more consistently on Instagram. And the pit is where you're just putting in the reps and you are just going live and like nobody is there and you're trying to think of things to say and you're like fussing over your hair and your makeup and you're like, did people watch it? And it's like all this emotional energy to even press the button to go live. And then you talk really quickly, right? It's like you putting in those reps, because eventually over time, if you keep showing up, right, going live becomes more natural. That is how you know you've made it through the pit and onto the other side. Most people, though, quit in the pit because it's hard, it's dark. Sometimes, though, the pit it feels endless and it's like for real rock bottom, in a sense of you lose everything. Maybe you lose your home. Maybe you lose your job. Maybe you lose all your friends, right? Maybe you have to move away, right? It's like this starting over point, or this like hitting, like, can it really get worse than this? And side note, it could always get worse. But that's how you feel in the moment of like, it can't get any worse than this. And those rock bottom moments are life changing, identity altering. I say all of this to say this is where we are right now. So this full moon in Cancer, Cancer represents our home, our foundation, our connection to the land, our connection to the ancestors. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So which is often thought about like representing our mother or our maternal nature or side of things. Whenever there is a full moon, it means that the sun is opposite of the moon. And the sun right now is in Capricorn and it's shining its light towards the moon, and the moon is reflecting that light, which is what always happens to their relationship. So I like to think about wherever the sun is sending information to the moon for it to highlight, like a bat signal in a way. So if the sun is in Capricorn, Capricorn is the first sign of winter. It is about us going in the dark and doing the work that's necessary. It's making me think about how, like on TikTok and Instagram, people are talking about, I'm in my winter art. If you're not familiar, it's this idea of the winter time is where you want to go ghost on the people who know you are on social media, and you want to start putting in the work. So a lot of people are talking about this is where they are hitting the gym really hard. This is where they're cleaning up their diet and their finances, because the idea is by the time you pop out in summer, which is June, July, right, you're a whole new you, and people are going to be looking at you like, oh, so what happened? You did a major glow up. But it's because you were behind the scenes doing the work. So think about Capricorn season as the time for us to do the behind the scenes work. Now, whoever created this calendar put the calendar new year in the middle of winter. But from an astrological point of view, the new year doesn't really begin until April, Aries season. In astrology terms, December, January, February, and half of March is where you reflect over the past year. So since last April, you're reflecting and you're evaluating your progress. And what were the intentions that you set last April? Where did you think you would be by this point? What have you done well in? What are the things that you want to take with you in this next season? What are the things that you need to let go? You need to prune off, you need to release. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn, I made this TikTok saying Saturn's a Black woman. And I want to talk about that more, maybe in a different episode, because I don't think I was all the way clear. But why I was saying that is because in my experience as a Black woman, usually when we are giving, like I think about in corporate, when we're given like positions of authority or that promotion, or we're asked to take over this brand new initiative, it's usually because the organization got itself in trouble and they didn't listen to Black women like months or years ago when they said, hey, this is going to be a problem, right? So I think about like VP Kamala Harris, right? It's like, oh, you can go run for president now that we see it's very clear that Biden is not going to win this race. So here you go, girl, let's prop you up. Knowing that it's like you gave her 90 days to run a race, and most presidents have years to start campaigning for presidency, and you gave her 90 days. Like, right, like that's an example. And that happens in like corporate or other places every day. But just like Black women everywhere, she got in and she did the work. Like she blew expectations out of the water. Like, this is not about where you align politically. I want you to think about the amount of work that she did, right? Like the amount of places, travel, speeches, fundraising, like she broke records and she only had 90 days to do that. Her ability to be able to jump into action and do all of that in 90 days didn't start at that 90-day process. It was all the years prior to that of her going to law school and whatever internships and being an attorney and like going up the ranks and getting into politics and meeting people. And it's like these lessons over and over. But even though she had put in this full body of work, by the time we get to last July, which is why I'm going here, y'all, I don't have any notes, but this analogy is doing it. Okay, anyway, let me get back to it. So by the time we get to last July, right now, like, okay, girl, you got 90 days, go ahead. She could have very well been like, oh, I got this. I've been training for this. I already ran for president. I got this. But this season, this particular 90 days required her to go to the next level. Like, I hope this is coming out the way I'm seeing it. Everybody else who ran for president didn't have to work as hard as she did. They didn't have to go to as many places. They didn't have to prove as much. They didn't have to like do all this extra hoops. But she did, even though she's way more experienced than her mates, right? Like in terms of credentials, her opponent, even though on paper she far exceeded him in experience and credentials, she still had to go up another level in terms of her work ethic, improving herself. That is how I think about Saturn. It says to you, it's like, oh, you want this? Okay, well, then you need to become this person who does that. And then once you become the person who does that, now you got to exceed what you've done. I'm trying to think of another example. I think about it like you go to college, right? And I feel like growing up, everybody's like, as long as you have a college degree, you'll be good. You'll have a job. You'll be good to go. And then I get to college and I do the thing and I graduate and they're like, but now that you have an undergrad degree, you need a master's degree. And it's like, okay, let me go put all my skills that I learned in undergrad and put it in master's. And then halfway through the master's degree, people were like, but if you really are serious, then you need to get a PhD. And that's how I feel like Saturn is. It's like just the moment after you go through the struggle, when you start to get to the end, it's like, are you ready for the next level? Boom. And then you have to do this work. Okay, why am I saying this? Because that's the energy that's being reflected right now. The sun is in one of Saturn's homes. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is why Capricorns have the, what is the word I'm looking for? The stereotype of like, they always about their money and they're always doing some work because they're ruled by the planet who's like, do the work that needs to be done. So if the sun is there and that's what it's highlighting and it's reflecting towards the moon, which is in Cancer, and Cancer represents summer. I just want to be in my house, or I just want to be with the people where I'm comfortable, right? I want to be on the land and enjoying the nice weather, at least here in this northern hemisphere. Like, I just want to be outside, right? Go get me a little hot dog from the cookout, like be with my family, play some good Frankie Beverly and Maze, right? I just have a good time. But the sun is like, hey, before you can have a good time, there's some things you need to clean up. There are some people around you that you know that you need to go let go of. There's some habits that you have that is going to block you from having to fully enjoying the summer you want to have. So for a lot of you, because I've been talking for 15 minutes, I want you to go back to July. Yeah, when summer was coming up. What was going on for you? What were you doing? You probably had a lot of ideas going, or you probably was in the middle of whatever crisis you're over now. When I think about me, I hosted a writing retreat here in Atlanta. I was writing a book. I was starting to get more traction on the internet and some other things are happening behind the scenes. But I started to see like, well, this is what the next level of business is going to look like. But I also, in the middle of July, was like, that's when I just felt like I was drinking out of a fire hose. And that is inappropriate at this point. My apologies. I felt like I don't know. I just felt like there was so much coming at me. And I was doing it, but I was like so exhausted and overwhelmed. Like I was just overwhelmed by, it felt like one night I went to sleep and nobody was paying attention to me on the internet or people, whatever. And then I woke up and it was like, whoa, hello, like all like people I didn't even realize were watching me or were reaching out to me. Anyway. And so I was just doing my best to like keep going, to like keep moving forward and try to take it all in and keep it on track. Now we fast forward to now, and I am in a much calmer place. I'm in a much like I see where my responsibility was for why everything felt so all over the place and coming at me so quickly. I now have 6 months of putting in reps and trying to figure out how to get the right team members in place and getting grounded and being like, here are the goals I'm going to go after. And this is what I want this next season of business to look like. I've been putting in reps week after week. So now that I'm sitting here in Capricorn season and I'm reflecting back onto last July, I'm like, poor little Ting Ting, I didn't know. There were some boundaries I needed with a lot of people. Some people just didn't have no boundaries, okay? I just was out here just mixing and enmeshing with people. Even though I thought I had did a lot of cleanup over 2022 and 2023, I would have told you like, yeah, I removed all of my like codependent ways. No, because in business, there were some things that needed to be cleaned up. Around finances, there was more attention that needed to be paid for me. And looking at the more details, I would say from 2021, when I went full time in business, to last July of 2024, I did the big things. I did the glaring things that needed to be cleaned up. Now, this was like, okay, how do we start focusing on the nuances? It's like I decluttered my entire house over the past 3 years, but when it came to 2024, now that everything was removed, now it's about cleaning the windows and cleaning out the vents for the dryer and cleaning out the drains of the washing machine and the dishwasher, getting the baseboards and cleaning out the ceiling fans and cleaning out the air ducts. It's like, what are those things that are necessary, but you may not do it on a day-to-day basis? But you can't focus on those things until you clear out the big, like the junky closet or all the, I don't know, like old decorations in the attic or whatever that is, right? I hope this analogy slanting. I want you to think back to July and really focus like what was going on for you. How are you the same as you were in July? How are you different? What is being revealed to you about the people you are around, the habits that you're keeping, and in particular, like, yeah, and particularly how you are self-sabotaging your efforts. Some of you might be like, no, I'm doing all the things, girl. I did all the things. And I would say your sabotage might be coming in the form of you not allowing yourself to dream about what's to come. I was hosting a New Year, like, workshop for the dissertation, finish your dissertation. And I was asking them to dream. Like, for me, dreaming is one of the most radical things that you can do because no one can take away your hope or your dreams. I mean, they can, but they can't control it. Like, at some point, we can always choose to do it, even though it could be one of the hardest things ever. Because people know that if they can control, if they can take away your hopes and your dreams, they can crush your spirit. That's why hope is so powerful and it's dangerous. And so I was telling them, like, I want you to dream about who you're going to be in January of 2026. Like, don't think about 2025. Think about who are you on January 1st of 2026. Because this was back in December when we were doing this. I said, I want you to like be so delusional. I said, be delusional with me. Who are you, January 2026? Now that we have something to work towards and you know who you are right now, what's the gap in the middle? And we want to create intentions to address the gaps in the middle, not from this place of, oh, I'm so bad and I need to be better or something's wrong with me. But no, it's like, this is who I dream. This is my dream life or dream morning or whatever have you. Like one of my clients, Heather, is creating a school. Like, I'm just going to put, she's creating a school. And I'm like, okay, just imagine that on January 1st, 26, you're already in this school. And I was like, but don't think about like all the things you need to do to get there. I was like, think about what is an average day on a Tuesday looks like for you in the school, right? And so I paint this picture for her of, think about that one group of students who they always are doing something and they always in trouble, but not in trouble. They do things like they spray paint a mural on one of the walls because they got there real early. And even though there's a rule of nothing, don't put nothing on these walls, they were like, but I did it. And they made a mural of you and you want to be mad at them. But then instead of being mad, you tell them, well, they need to finish it and that you expect excellent work from them and that next time you come in or tomorrow when you come in, it better be so crisp and so clear, or otherwise they're going to get in trouble. And she was like, what? I'm like, yeah, like when we are reimagining what's possible in a traditional school, those students probably would get suspended and sent home. But this is your school and you care about students and you care about them from a developmental point of view. And what if they didn't get in trouble for expressing themselves, but that you encourage their art while holding them accountable by raising the standards to push them creatively? And they still probably have to do something, but it doesn't have to be punishing them for being creative, right? When I say I want y'all to be delusional, I want you to not only dream about what you want, but to dream about the details of that. Because once you can see yourself clearly, now you can look at you today and be like, now, how am I sabotaging myself? Yeah, I don't know how I got here. I'm just talking. I'm just talking. This is probably why I should have notes, but y'all be listening. So I'm just going to keep going. Sometimes I listen back to this and I'm like, girl, you forgot the whole point you was making. I do, because I get so caught up in the thing. Okay, but hopefully it'll come back, y'all. But anyway, I was telling her that and she was like, yeah. She was like, how do you do this? Like, how are you so optimistic? And I'm like, I don't know, but I will tell you. I guess this will be me bringing it back full circle. I've had so many dark moments in my life that all I had was dreams and hopes. All I had was delusion. Like I'm not going to say, oh, I've had the worst life than anybody else, but I had y'all had some moments. And if it wasn't for my radical imagination, I wouldn't be here talking to you. So when I say, even though you might be going through one of your darkest moments, yes, we need to dream, because that's the only way to pull forward. Oh, I remember what I was saying. Sabotaging yourself can look like not allowing yourself to see what comes next. You might be stuck in a place where, oh, I'll figure out, I'll dream about the future when I know I'm okay right now, when I have enough money to pay my bills right now, when I don't feel as alone as I do right now, when I see my follower count go up. That's when I'll start dreaming. But what you don't realize is that the only way for many of you, for the money to get in your bank account, for the followers to go up, for whatever the thing you feel like you desperately need right now to happen, is for you to radically dream. Because you're standing still, you're stuck. And Saturn does not do stuck. It does not do standing in place. Saturn does not care about how you feel about it. It's like, do the work that needs to be done. The moon, Cancer, is more nurturing, but Saturn is like, I don't care about your feelings. And the sun does not like being in Capricorn. So this feels like a harder season right now. But July holds a lot of clues. Like if you can, as much as possible, you might have to talk to someone, but step back and take like a 3 million foot view of July till now. You can see some ways that you have tried some things and they have worked and they just need more time. You can see, oh, there's some things that I keep doing, some decisions I keep making, some people I still decide to keep going around, that every time I do it, it's keeping me stuck or taking me backwards. A small example would be, I keep eating sugar, like sweets, like it doesn't cause me extreme heartburn. And whenever I need some comfort in my day, like let's say I had a hard day and it was a back-to-back calls and I had to make a lot of decisions that I was unsure about, at the end of the day, what I want is sugar. I want like Frosted Flakes. I want a cupcake. But every time I do that, now I'm up all night with heartburn and I don't get any sleep. And so then I wake up the next day feeling exhausted and feeling like I need even more comfort, which then drives me to want more sugar, right? And then the cycle continues on and on. I know what to do to prevent my sleep from being disrupted and my esophagus from being on fire. I don't do it because I rather take the comfort of those moments of having the sugar. And I'm like, whatever, as long as I feel comfortable in that moment, realizing that the biggest cost of that is not having any sleep all night or having my sleep broken. Yours might not be a cupcake or Frosted Flakes, but it's something like that. Sometimes it's relationships. Maybe there's this romantic relationship this person, the situationship that you keep entertaining. Every time they call you and they want to like get up, you do, even though you feel like shit afterwards. and you notice like it ain't going nowhere, but you keep doing it because you keep hoping that maybe this time they'll want to be with you. Maybe this time they'll want to make it official. But every time you go talk to them, again, y'all keep doing this cycle. Maybe yours is that friend who you are getting serious about your business. You are like, oh, I see the potential of what this could be. I want to get, more clients. But that friend is like, oh, you doing all that work? Oh, you gonna go live? Oh, you're working with this person. They keep asking you all these questions about what you're doing in your business, but at the same time, it comes with a hint of, oh, like it's like jealousy, but also talking shit. Like, oh, why are you doing all of that? Well, you shouldn't have to. I don't need to do all of that for a business, right? Like, but it gets to you, and you start second guessing the decisions that you're making. You start second guessing whether you should work with that coach, or you should hire that VA, or you should, increase the amount you're posting on Instagram. You keep being around that friend who keeps getting in, like, who keeps getting in your head, and it makes you second guess. And instead, you could distance yourself or remove yourself completely from their relationship, but you don't want to go through the discomfort required to have the conversation or to do the distancing. So you keep just doing this circle. Maybe yours is like a money thing, and you keep being like, I need to pay my bills. I need to pay my bills. And even though if you look back since July, you have been making more money, right? You have been signing more clients, and it's just not where you want it to be. And so then you keep trying to entertain old clients. You keep going back to old spaces, or you keep saying like, nobody wants to work with me. You keep entertaining that story of like, see, I must be broken. My business it's not good enough, or whatever it is that you're telling yourself. And because you're blaming, though, it's easier, it's more comfortable to blame. It's just not possible for me than it is for you to realize, no, it just takes more work than you thought. It takes you posting, instead of posting once a day, yeah, you probably got to post 5 times a day. Instead of talking to one person in the DMs, you might have to talk to 10 people in the DMs before you can get a client. It's like, you know what to do, but it's uncomfortable. That's where we are. Okay, I said all this to say that's where we are right now. This full moons are a way to say like, you're filled up. It's time to release the things that are no longer working for you. And now, because the sun is in its in Capricorn, it's showing you the work that you need to do, the hard decisions you need to make, the uncomfortable, the next level of expectations you need to meet. And your job is, do I want to do that? But this isn't about, oh, you got to do more work. This is about, am I willing to let the things go? Am I willing to let go of the old stories? Am I willing to let go of those relationships? Am I willing to let go of like, the habits that are no longer helping me? When those very habits or those very people helped you to get to where you are in a way, right? Because if we go back to the friend in the business example, that friend who's like kind of shit talking, at one point, probably when y'all first started the business, when you first had the idea that you could have your side hustle, y'all probably were the only two in your circles who were even thinking about a side hustle, who was even thinking about this online thing. And so at a point, y'all, because y'all had each other, y'all kept going in business. But now, today, y'all have grown apart because that friend is still wanting to stay where she is, and she wants to hide, and she doesn't want to work. But you are starting to see that if I do these things differently, I'll get the results I want. And because y'all are not on the same page, your season has ended, and somebody got to walk away, or you're going to be stuck in this cycle. Or maybe, right, that's not comfortable. And it feels like a betrayal on some sense, but I would say it's grief. It's grief that you're naming. The money situation, you might be like, yeah, things are getting better, but it's not fully where I need it to be. But that's because your belief system needs to catch up to who you are right now. Because what you're doing is working. You just need more time to keep doing the things that are working. Just because it was an instant doesn't mean what you're doing is not working. It just means that you have to have patience and faith, which is harder when you're like, but I feel like I'm going to lose my house or like my apartment, or I won't be able to pay my bills. And I want you to sit back and be like, but are the bills getting paid? Are they getting paid? They might be getting paid late and you might be putting them on credit card, but are they getting paid? Okay, then keep doing what's working and trust that it will work out in the end, because the alternative is you sitting here right now stressing yourself out, worrying about something that in this moment you don't have control. You have control over what you do, you have control over those same strategies, but like in this moment constantly stressing like, is it going to happen, is it not going to happen, it's not helping you. And I forgot my third example, but I hope that helps. So I wish I had more like fluffy like news for you. And I'm saying this to say like there is a change coming in about 2 to 3 months as we get into Aries season, like the end of Pisces to Aries season. We're gonna notice a whole new change. From April to June, July, you will know how much work you've done by that point. Your report card, if you will be coming out in the spring. And it matters what you do right now. Going back to that whole winter arc situation, it matters what you do right now in the dark. So, are you willing to make the uncomfortable decisions if it means that you're going to have more of what you want come the spring and the summer? This is not the time to give up. This is not the time to quit. Everything that is happening is proof that what you're doing is working. You just needed to give it more time. So thank y'all. I didn't expect it to go that way, but I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know your thoughts. You can come over on Instagram. I would love to talk with you. Okay, I am going to go to a coaching session and I will talk to y'all next week.